Hello, welcome to English 1302, Composition 2. We're going to try to get to know each other over the next 15 weeks. Try to bear with me here with the online presentation, and we will do our best to get you guys knowledgeable about argument and how to handle rebuttals and different forms of argument that you can write about. So, if you could, need you to follow along with the syllabus as we discussed in class. Syllabus is available on eCampus. We're going to take a look at that in a minute here. Okay? But the highlights of the syllabus. So everyone should set up their MindTap accounts by the end of next week. Okay? You should have no problem getting through to it. In fact, if you are in the Included program, it's my understanding that you won't even need an access code. All you need to do is just register in it. Okay? You'll need to complete all assignments in MindTap by December 5th. Okay? Now, the required text for this class is The Essentials of Writing, 10 Core Concepts, 2nd edition by Robert Yagelski. There are two ISBNs listed. One of them is for a print copy, and one is for a digital e-text. Now, here's the thing. I've been trying these ISBNs in searches, and they have been coming up empty. Unfortunately, it looks like the publisher changed the ISBNs without letting us know about it. However, if you search for them by the titles at the Follett bookstore, it will show up. Okay? Both of these will show up. They're all available through the campus bookstore. Fall editions include codes for MindTap, although, again, I'm told by the Pearson tech support that this semester you should not need codes. All you should really need to do is get into MindTap and register. You should not need an access code for it this time. Now, the optional text I have listed here is a book titled The Tao of Writing, Imagine, Create, Flow by Ralph Wallstrom. Ralph Wallstrom was an instructor that I had as an undergrad. He wrote this book after spending a considerable amount of time in China. It's based on the Tao Te Ching, which is a sacred text of Taoism. And what I found is that it's a really good resource for combating one thing that I found is the bane of most writers' existence, and that is writer's block. It helps you to prevent writer's block, and if you get it, this book will give you exercises that will help you break it. Okay? I don't require you to have it, but I make it a recommended text because it's really a really good resource. Now, as far as materials for this class, you probably will want a spiral-bound college rule notebook to use as a writing journal. We'll talk about that in a minute. You want a USB thumb drive. As you can tell, it's been a while since I've written these slides. I do say 2 gig minimum. I will say on the shelves, I've not seen anything less than 4 in the last couple of years. And then obviously you need internet access. It is a must because this is going to be an online course this year. Okay? And obviously, if you're listening to me right now, that means you have internet access. Hopefully you have enough to handle this. So, everything's going to be done online. eCampus is going to be our primary means of communication during the semester. However, we will also be having once weekly Blackboard Communicate sessions for the class. It's going to be scheduled near the end of the week is what I'm going to go for. Okay? You must attend at the very least the first of these sessions because I need that for the class census. Okay? Right now it's looking like what they're doing is setting it up so that all of my 1302 students are using one single eCampus page. In which case I'm going to have a single Blackboard Communicate session for everybody in 1302. So you guys are going to have to make sure that you attend at least that first session. I'm going to hold them weekly. They're going to be basic, just Q&A sessions. Any concerns you may have about assignments, we'll discuss stuff from eCampus. We'll discuss stuff from the slides. Any concerns you might have about the course in general, that's what we'll be talking over. And I will be posting to eCampus what the schedule is for those sessions. Let's talk about the highlights of the syllabus. The big thing is the assignments that you're going to be doing. There are 6 writing assignments over the course of the semester. Okay. The first one's going to be a classical argument. It's going to be what you're basically used to if you ever did debate. Very much prove a thesis right and refute an opponent. Then we have an evaluative argument, which is like a review. We're going to be looking a lot at things like film reviews as examples of this, because it's basically you're evaluating something on a list of criteria that you create for merit. Okay. The next is going to be an annotated bibliography, which is going to be a team project. We're going to have you guys forming teams today, actually, after this session. I want you guys to form teams. I will make sure that we are clear who's on what team. And you guys, it's going to be up to you guys to communicate online. We'll talk about that in a minute. The fourth assignment is a proposal argument, where you're going to be making a proposal for some sort of change. Okay? And you're going to be arguing why this needs to be changed and proposing what you want to do to change it. Okay. Fifth one there is a weekly discussion board. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. It's going to be your chance to flex your writing muscles and practice. And then the last one is the final exam, which is a timed final exam. The final exam is going to basically be a timed event where you have to get a proctor, like a friend or a family member who will act as a proctor to time you, so that you remain within the time limit to compose your response to the exam questions. All right. So, late work policy, I will be accepted for 1 full week late for full grade. Okay. Later turn-ins than that are going to be penalized. The slide says 2% for each session. That should read 4% for each week. Mainly because each week of this class, if we were doing it face-to-face, it would be comprised of 2 sessions each week. So naturally, just add them together. 4% per week late if you go past 1 week late. Okay. Plagiarism. It's going to be penalized with 0% on an assignment. Okay. I want to make sure that we're understanding here. Nobody should be plagiarizing papers at this point. Okay, and while I do not require you to turn stuff in through a service like Turnitin or ACOT Plagiarism Checker, I do check for plagiarism. I am my own plagiarism checker. I am really good at it, and please do not try it. Okay. As far as attendance and participation goes, obviously you're going to have the discussion boards, but attendance is going to be kind of a hard one to do on an online course, but the way I'm going to do it is based on how often you access the materials on eCampus. I have statistics tracking set on the slideshows and on the links to YouTube. So I will be keeping track of who clicks those links and who actually watches them, or who actually does the work. I'll also be keeping track of who responds on the discussion board, so that's going to be key as well. Another thing to keep in mind here, YouTube does allow me to see the average duration that people watch the videos for. Okay, so this became a problem at the end of the spring semester when we had to switch everything in emergency mode over to an online course, because I found my lectures were being watched for maybe about 15 minutes of an hour-long essay or an hour-long lecture. Okay, so I want to make sure that you guys understand you have to watch the whole lecture. Okay, because otherwise you're going to miss some nuance that you're not going to get by just reading the slides. Okay, feel free to follow along with the slides as we go here. I'm presenting them on here, the video, just as a courtesy, but you're going to want to stick with me for the entire video. Next one, be courteous, polite, and open-minded to other viewpoints in discussions. The discussion boards are actually intended to be discussions. I do want you guys going back and forth. With that in mind, I want everybody to be respectful of each other and understand that we come from different backgrounds, so there should be no flaming, no vicious arguments going on. You're free to express your opinions, however, that's within reason. Okay, obviously I'm not going to allow anybody to present hate speech or anything like that, but I will allow for an open discussion. Okay. Also, the lectures. They're going to be delivered via YouTube weekly. One video lecture covers a week's worth of material, and one slideshow covers a week's worth of material. Now, I'll be tracking views on the videos. They're going to be linked alongside the class slides on eCampus, so it'll be imperative that when a new video posts, you'll need to go view it. There's a couple ways you're going to find out when the new video posts. One, I'm going to post an announcement, okay, to eCampus to let you know that the new lecture has been posted. Second, they're going to be posted to my personal YouTube account. You can use YouTube subscription and notification features to be alerted to the new sessions by subscribing. Now, I do want you to keep in mind, I am using my personal YouTube account. There is stuff on that account that I really consider personal, that I do not want shared. It's unlisted right now, but the thing is that I know there's ways that you can get around that. Okay, it's primarily home movies. All right, so as much as possible, I only want you to access the class materials. Okay. Once I get to week 3 or week 4, I am going to actually start compiling the lectures for this class into a playlist. And I will also post a link to the playlist in case people want to go back on some of the lectures or missed any of them. Okay, so I'll post a link to the playlist so that people can get all the lectures in one place. All right. With that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at the eCampus page. Here's what you're going to find, okay? When you get to eCampus, this is the home page. Defaults to the announce page, the announcements. You may recognize this announcement. I sent it to you guys last week. Whenever I post an announcement, I also have the system email all my students that announcement. Okay, so you will get the announcements in your email box the same time that I post them to eCampus. Now, the important links here are going to be on the left side of the screen, so let's take a look at that. Starting with the syllabus, which you should have right now. This link should take you to a download for the syllabus. Okay. Let's scroll down a little bit. We got some information for Include Ed if you're in that program. Obviously, we have the announcements. Here we go to the coursework. First link we have here is the class PowerPoints and YouTube lectures. So this is where I'm going to post all the slideshows and the YouTube links. Okay. So just to show you, they're going to go, the PowerPoints are going to go live the Sunday before the week they correspond with. So as you can see, week 1 slides are going to be available on the 23rd of August. Week 2 slides available on the 30th of August. Week 3 on September 6th, so on and so forth. Okay? So, next thing is the class discussion board. Alright, so you notice that there's 3 forums here. Okay? All 3 of them are going to be important in different ways. So the first forum here is the weekly discussion topics. So this is going to be where you're going to be going for the weekly discussion questions. New topic every week. You're going to have to respond to it with a response of no less than 3 paragraphs initially. Then after that, you can post replies and responses to other students' responses to the questions. And if you take a look here, I'll show you just as a sample. This is what week 1's discussion topic looks like. Okay, it's mostly going to be rooted in current events, with a few exceptions. One exception I make is for significant fun holidays, such as Halloween. I have posted special discussion topics for Halloween that were intended to be spooky in nature. For instance, 2 years ago, the discussion topic was asking people to react to creepypastas. Last year, the Halloween topic was asking people to react to 5 samples of a genre of YouTube video where people create fictional emergency broadcast system broadcasts. And all 5 of the ones that I picked were ones that were catastrophic events that there was no possible way of surviving. Okay? So as you can see, the discussion topic is going to include a general overview of the situation. It'll give you the discussion for the week, and then it'll also supply you with some links to news sources about that topic. As you can see here, for example, on this topic, the links, one goes to The National, which is a British newspaper. Another one goes to The Telegraph, another British newspaper. One goes to Forbes, American financial magazine. 4th one goes to Euronews, which is a European news website. Then the 5th one goes to YouTube. It specifically goes to the Philip DeFranco Show, which is a 4 times a week news broadcast. Okay, so that's what the discussion board is going to look like. You're going to respond directly in these threads. Last year I had a couple people that started making their own threads to respond to these. I don't want that because that's going to turn into a mess really fast. So I want you to respond within this thread. Just reply to it. Okay? Now, the other 2 forums in this discussion board, one of them is the team discussion threads. Okay? When you guys form your teams, which I'm going to ask you guys to do at the end of this video, you're going to find a thread to your team using your chosen team names. Now I want you to use these threads for communication with your teammates via eCampus, for workshopping sessions, and to collaborate on the team project. Okay? This is going to be one of your lifelines to communicate with your team. Another one is going to be any outside of class formats, such as email or social or any kind of social media, like if you can get together on Facebook or you can get together on Twitter. Okay, if you can contact each other however way you can. Okay, stay in touch with each other. You're going to need each other. You're going to need to lean on each other for the entire semester. The 3rd one here is the questions to the professor. Okay, in this forum you post any questions that occur to you outside of our Blackboard Collaborate sessions. Okay, if you happen to have a question that you wish you had asked in Blackboard Collaborate and you can't wait till the next week, you can post it here and I'll answer it for you. One thing to keep in mind though, this is a public forum, so if there are any questions that you feel are not public in nature, that is to say if it's a grade question or if it's something specific that you need to find out that's personal, if you're not comfortable asking in a personal setting, if you're not comfortable asking about it in a public setting, I would still recommend emailing it to me. Okay? Now, next one to look at here is MindTap. And this is our online learning. So once you get here, all you have is this link to English 1302 MindTap. You're going to follow that, and that will take you to the MindTap site. All right, so we have here is our MindTap unit for the class. Okay, each one of the units here corresponds with some of the materials in the within the class setting. Okay. Now, here the thing is that I do the annotated bibliography later because I use that as a setup for the third paper. Okay. So the order you're going to do this in: Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 1, Unit 4. Okay. Now all this material has to be done by the end of the semester, which is December 4th. Okay. You can take your time with it. You can do it at your own pace. But just keep in mind that you have a deadline that you have to complete everything by. Okay. One other thing to keep in mind here: if you need quick access to the book, this is it right here. You need to just click on that, and it'll bring up the book. This is the full text here. All you have to do is just hit the arrows to go page through it. Okay, and there's also hyperlinks to go to particular chapters. All right, so let's get back to eCampus. All right. Then next link here is the major essays and assignments. That's going to be where you're going to turn in all of your materials, the annotated bibliography, and the 3 essays. Okay. And then the last link is the final exam. That should currently be hidden. If it's not, I'm going to have to hide it. But it has nothing in it right now anyway. I will let you know. Again, I mentioned that the final exam is a timed writing exercise. Okay. One thing I want to let you know about with the final exam is that there is probably going to be an element to it that may cause some kind of consternation, some kind of emotional upset. I will say that is intentional. Okay. I want you to feel about this topic because the more intensely you feel about something, the better you're going to write about it. You're going to be more invested in that subject, so you're going to actually create a better argument. Okay? To give you an idea of what kind of stuff we're talking about here, some of my past topics, one of them was diversity and inclusion in film. One of them was toxic fandom and gatekeeping. One past topic I did was attachment therapy, which was is an interesting story because the semester I did that attachment therapy topic, as I totally did not know this, but one of my students had actually gone through it. If you're not familiar, attachment therapy is considered to be by many to be institutionalized child abuse. Okay. I actually had a student that went through it, and he actually put out one of the best essays I've ever seen for this final exam because he had lived it, and he had the experience that was really going to help him with that essay. Then I do some silly ones every once in a while. One of the silly topics I did was just this last spring semester. I asked people to create interpretations of the web series "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared." Okay, so it could be silly or it could be serious. Okay, you're not going to really know until we get about 2/3 of the way through the semester and we start looking at that final exam material. But what's going to be at this link is going to be, I'm going to create a final exam reading packet that you're going to want to print out because you can use it on the final exam day. It also includes some questions, some sample questions so that you can practice writing your responses to the questions, because I will pull the exam questions from those sample questions. One of the sample questions will end up being what you write about. Right? All right, so the next link of interest here is going to be Blackboard Collaborate. This is going to be how we're going to do our web conferences. It works similar to Zoom, so if you've used Zoom in this last 6 months or so, you'll be okay with Blackboard Collaborate. I am going to set up a schedule for all my 1302 students to come on to Blackboard Collaborate and participate in a discussion. It's going to be mostly a Q&A discussion, but we can also do things like talk over the discussion topic. We can have a debate about that. We can address any concerns people have over the lecture for the week. We'll have the slides available. Any questions, anything that anybody wants to address publicly with other students or with me and want to make it clear to the students that that's a concern, we can do that. Okay? All right, so that does it for eCampus. So let's move on. And talk about the writing journals. Okay? Now, journals are useful for collecting ideas and practicing writing. Keep in mind that the more practice you get with writing, the better you will be. It's just like sports or music. Okay? The more you do it, the better you get at it. Okay? The more comfortable you are with it, the better you get at it. Now, journal entries have no rules. Okay? I am not going to be asking you to do specific things for those journals. They can be anything that constitutes an idea. Okay? I want this to be free-flowing. I want this to be open idea generation. Okay? So anything that can constitute an idea that might inspire you could go in these journals. This can include things like song lyrics. Okay? If you hear some song lyrics that you think, hey, that's interesting, I should elaborate on that, before you lose them, write them down. Okay? Interesting facts that you learn, something that you may not have known about. Okay? Something that might be amusing. Quotes. Significant quotes from significant individuals. Okay? Or maybe not so significant individuals. Okay? Just if it's a quote that you feel like it needs to be elaborated on, then you can include it. Drawings. This one's particularly good for me. Okay? This is what I relate to. Because my mind works in a very visual way. Okay, I have to think of something by seeing how it's going to play out, and then I can write it. So as a result, if you look at my own writing journals, my writing journals are sketch pads. I am actually drawing out what the scene looks like before I write it out, so that way I have a better idea and I can describe it better. Okay? Dreams. Dreams is always a fun one. Okay, people keep a dream journal, usually just to record what they're dreaming about, maybe try to interpret it, try to understand what they're feeling. Okay, other writers use dream journals as fodder for writing. A famous example of this is an author named William S. Burroughs. If you're not familiar with him, he's an author who's really associated with the 60s counterculture. He was a surrealist author, wrote surrealistic novels. It's probably fair to say that a lot of it might have been drug-induced, but he kept dream journals. And one of his most famous works is a work that he wrote from his dream journals. It's a work called Naked Lunch. Naked Lunch is a very surrealistic and very confusing novel that was made in an even more confusing movie in the mid-90s. But at heart, the story of Naked Lunch is about an exterminator who starts having hallucinations because he's accidentally ingested too many of his poisons. So many of the hallucinations that this exterminator has was stuff that Burroughs drew from his dream journals. Okay? Now, it was surrealistic enough as it was, but then Burroughs took it one step further. So, I'm going to give you an idea of how this man's mind worked. I want you to try to picture yourself in like a stereotypical writer's study. Okay? It's like wood grain walls, bookshelves, you got desk, got typewriter, and you have William S. Burroughs there, and he's holding his manuscript. Okay? It's about that thick, maybe about 350 pages long. Okay? Typewritten. Okay? This is in the 60s. It's prior to the era of personal computers and printers. So, once you type it out, that's it. Okay? You're going to have to deal with it. So, he's got this manuscript in his hands. Holds it like this. Holds it out away from him. walks out into the middle of the room and does this. Tosses it up in the air. Lets the pages fall where they may. He collects the pages together in random order, packages it, and ships it to his publisher. And the publisher prints it that way. Okay? So, if you ever have the opportunity to read this novel, you will notice that the writing of it is going to seem very disjointed. The reason why is because of what Burroughs did before he sent it out to be published. Okay, he actually equated this to an ancient practice of shaman who were searching for new hunting trails, and they did it by disemboweling goats and reading the entrails to create new maps. Okay, so in that way, he was trying to do the same thing with his manuscript to create a new way of reading it. Okay, again, drug-induced, but what can you say? All right, so another way you can use the journal, and one that's probably going to be more pertinent to you though for this class, could be drafts. You can use the journal to test out wordings for your essays. Check drafts over, make sure that you're got everything you want to say being said. In general, you just want to make sure that everything is going to be coming out the way you want it to come out, and you're going to be understood. All right. So because of the online nature of this class, journals are going to be on the honor system. Okay, I'm not going to be able to reach out through the computer and check to make sure that you're keeping a writing journal. However, I am going to highly recommend that you do keep one because many of my students find that it is a benefit to them. It ultimately is going to help you to keep a writing journal. Right. So, let's get to know each other real quick. Okay, as a brief icebreaker task, I'm going to have you guys do a little assignment here on the discussion boards. Okay, under the questions for the professor forum, there's going to be a topic thread for Icebreaker. Okay, what I want you to do is to reply to this thread with a short message about yourself. So tell as much as you are comfortable with talking about. Please, no TMI stuff. We don't need to get too personal about this. But we just generally want to know what you guys are about, what you guys want to know, what you guys want to do. Okay? So just as an example, some of the things you can talk about in this exercise. Tell us what your intended college major is. What do you plan on doing? What kind of degree do you intend on getting? Okay? What is your career goal? Ultimately, when you get that degree, what are you planning on doing with it? Okay, what kind of career do you want to go into? What interests do you have outside of academics? What do you do for fun? What kind of things do you do for entertainment? What kind of things do you do with your family, with your friends? Okay, what kind of things do you like to do? Where are you from, and where have you lived in the past? Okay, where in Texas do you live? Presumably in the Dallas area. Maybe some people a little further. Where have you come from to get to that point, to get to that place? And then finally, how much writing have you done in the past, either academic or recreational? What kind of writing have you done or do you do? Do you write poetry? Do you write short stories? I had a student once that wrote copious amounts of rap lyrics as a pastime. Matter of fact, when I was checking writing journals, this guy went through 4 writing journals in a semester, okay, because they were all full of rap lyrics, original rap lyrics that he was creating. So, how much writing have you done before? Now, again, this list is not intended to be limiting. This is not the extent of what I want you to say. Feel free to elaborate as much or as little as you like, okay? Disregard the thing about the writing exercise. We're not going to do that exercise in this class. That's for 1301. Okay? But I want you guys to be as detailed as you want to be. So I'm going to pause the lecture here for maybe about 5 minutes or so, allow you to go to eCampus, get on that icebreaker topic, and write out your response. All right, so hopefully you've had a chance to go to the discussion board and post to the Icebreaker topic. So now that you've let me know about you, it's time for you to know about me. So I've been teaching at the Brookhaven campus since 2016. Started out as an adjunct. I started doing full-time last year. This is my second year at full-time. This is also my first time doing 100% online. We had to go to online just after spring break last semester. And it was kind of bumpy, but we'll see if it goes a little smoother this time. One thing to keep in mind, I want to let you know about, I'm a working writer. You may notice in that picture there, I've got 5 book covers. Those are the 5 novels that I've self-published. Also, I'm a 3-time winner of National Novel Writing Month, or NaNoWriMo. As we get later in the semester, I will give you an opportunity to participate in this. It's a fun event for any writer. It's basically a personal challenge. The idea is you're supposed, over the course of the month of November, so 30 days, you're supposed to write 50,000 words toward an original novel. I succeeded in completing that task 3 times. 2 of those 5 books that I've got the covers there were NaNoWriMo winners. Okay. The other 3 I wrote out around NaNoWriMo. In fact, one of them I wrote before I even knew it existed. So, as far as where I'm located, I am in Longview. Normally, it's a 2.5-hour commute for me to get to the Brookhaven campus, but since we're staying online, I get to work from home this time. Okay, so I live here. In my house, I have my wife, my daughter, and our pets. You may have noticed I have some rather interesting decor behind me. My daughter has been kind enough to allow me to use her bedroom as my recording studio for these things. So my daughter is 8 years old, and she's big into animals and Pokemon right now. You may notice that she's got Pokemon on the walls. Okay, it's nothing wrong with that. I remember playing Pokemon when it first came out. So, but she's big into the game. She's big into collecting plushies of them. She plays it on her console. She plays Pokemon Go. She's watched the show. She's really into it. Okay. My wife up in the upper left-hand corner there. My wife works as an engineer, as an engineering manager, really, for a company out here in Longview that produces sheet metal products for the AC HVAC industry. And the box that she's holding there, that is a box containing a set of Stormtrooper armor for Star Wars. She's attempting to get into the 501st Legion, and she's constructing a Stormtrooper costume for that purpose. Okay, if you're not familiar, 501st Legion is a Star Wars cosplay group. All right, so as far as our pets go, we do work with a cat rescue. Disregard that thing that says we're fostering 2 cats. We're only fostering 1. 4 of the cats are ours, and we also have a dog. So, to introduce you to all of our cats, the oldest one is this calico right here. That would be Twinkle. Okay, she has a bit of attitude. Then the next oldest here is Boo, this black short hair right here. Then on down the line, this is our one foster is this Tabby. Her name is Vespa. And then the 2 youngest cats we have, first this one in my daughter's arms, that is Chocolate. She was found in a weld shop in Kilgore. We washed her up, and we've raised her since. Ever since then, she's gotten huge, and she's gotten very fluffy. So much so that we believe part of her heritage may be Norwegian forest cat. She's got that thick of fur. And then down here, this cat that my wife is holding, that kitten, its name is Cloudy. We just got her last May. Uh, she's also become fluffy. We kind of think that she may possibly be a Turkish Angora, although she was just a random stray, so we're not sure why we're finding all these wacky cats around here. Then you may notice this is our dog Lulu. I kept this photo in here because she's sleeping next to a cat that passed away last year for us when we had like the longest. Her name was Lilo. She moved here with us when we moved here from New York State. So, as far as the interests that we all have diverse interests. Starting with my daughter, she's big into obviously Pokemon, big into animal stuff. She's really keen on helping us with the cats. She's also into she got everybody in the household into Animal Crossing. She's also a big fan of gaming YouTubers, particularly ones that play Roblox. If you're familiar with YouTubers, two of her favorite channels are Hyper and Wenji, which she has subjected me to. We're also big Disney fans. You may notice we have a photo down here with Tinkerbell. That's from a couple years back when we did our Disney World trips. We were actually at Disney World this last spring in March when they announced that they were going to be closing down because of the pandemic. So we got a couple more days out of our trip, and then we had to come back home. So we're also big into Disney. In my spare time, I'm a casual Magic the Gathering player. I don't really go in for the big money tournaments, but I do like to do the local events when they hold them. They haven't really held any local events since the pandemic started. It's kind of like, I want to play. I haven't been able to get out to play anyone since July. It's makes me a bit antsy, but other than that, I'm alive. I'll take that. Right. Alright, so let's talk about argument. So first off, we have to establish exactly what it is we're talking about when we're talking argument. Okay? So, to be clear, in this class, what we are not dealing with is the typical definition most people think of when they hear the word argument. Now, most times that's going to be classified as simply, it's just plain old fight. Okay? We're not talking about when you get into a dispute with your family or your friends or just some random person who you disagree with. Okay? That's not what we talk about with argument. In the formal sense, an argument is a position taken by a writer or orator in a dispute, which they intend to prove using facts, logical reasoning, and refutation of the opposing viewpoint. So it's very much steeped in logic, which, if you've watched any news lately, you'll find that logic tends to be severely lacking from some people. Unfortunately, it usually seems to be people that need to be using logic. That's just my opinion. Alright, so formally, argument is going to be taken, just be a position that you take, and you're going to prove with logic and disprove the opposition using the same logic. Composition 2 is all about forming and presenting arguments in a clear and logical fashion, which in turn make for better writing and more persuasive communication. If you are able to back up your arguments with reasoning that makes sense, that makes absolute logical sense, you're going to be that much stronger of a writer and communicator for it. So, you might be thinking, well, this sounds like persuasion. Well, kind of, okay? However, there's a bit of a difference here. So, let's talk about what those differences are. So while persuasion is a vital element of an argument, there does not necessarily have to be an argument present for a work to be persuasive. Okay? Many times persuasive writing is simply trying to gain sympathy to their own side, whereas an argument is presenting a logical reason why the arguer is correct. So, The main difference between persuasion and argument here is that a persuasive paper is going to try to affect you emotionally. It's going to try to get you on their side by pulling on the heartstrings, making you feel like I'm going to be a terrible person if I disagree with this person, so I've got to stay with their side. However, if you're dealing with an argument here is relying less on emotion and more on cold fact. It's more on logic. It's more on this is why this happens, and this is the reason why this is true because of this. Okay, there has to be some very clear argument there. Okay. Now, one example I want you to take a look at is on page 166 in your textbook. Okay. This is 2 persuasive pieces of advertising. One has a generally persuasive outlook on its topic, while the other is trying to make a powerful logical argument. Okay. Now, I don't have the textbook in hand here, so I can't look at it explicitly, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's in regards to water. Both of the ads involve water. I believe one of them is an ad for bottled water. I think it's for Nestle. And then the other one is a message about water pollution. Okay. I will say that that's a very pertinent argument, especially in the most recent years, when it comes to Nestle and water pollution. Both of them actually come together in the form of the Flint water crisis. One thing that possibly may have exacerbated the Flint water crisis was that Nestle had a contract with the state of Michigan to basically draw water to manufacture bottled water from several Michigan aquifers. Okay, which probably limited options for Flint when it came time to switch off their water from Detroit Municipal. Which led them eventually to take their water from a river, which eventually wound up leading to the water not being treated properly, and that led to the pipes corroding and the lead getting in the water. Okay? So, those pieces that are in the textbook, the bottled water ad is just trying to make this really emotional argument that's like saying you're gonna be happy because you're drinking bottled water. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to quench your thirst. It's going to make you feel cool. You can sit out in the sun. You can sunbathe, whatever. Okay. The other ad is basically going to be using facts and information to let you know this is a serious problem. We need to do something about it. You should try to contact someone and talk about this. Okay? So the main difference between persuasive work and argumentative work is that an argument is intended to advance understanding of the topic, while persuasive work merely plays on the audience to convince them to think or feel a certain way. Okay? It is basically the difference between a good example for this would be comparing a Motor Trend review of a car to a TV ad for a used car salesman. Okay, the Motor Trend review is going to be more argumentative. They're going to be more factual. They're going to try to inform you. In fact, Motor Trend might not be a good one. Let's talk Consumer Reports, because they're the gold standard in terms of evaluation for cars. Okay, so Consumer Reports is going to be very factual, just the facts. This is what's going on. This is what this car has. This is what this car doesn't have. This is good. This is bad. These are problems. This is solutions. So on and so forth. Used car dealers just going to want you to come in and buy. These deals won't last. Yada yada yada. Okay, they're going to play on your emotions, convince the audience that they have to go buy a car. Whereas Consumer Reports is going to say, okay, if you want to buy a car, do you really want to buy this car? Because we have some research here that says it may have some issues. Okay? So let's talk about arguing to assert a position. Okay? One of the most common forms of argument in our modern era of internet media is to assert a position to better clarify where you stand on an issue. Okay? You are basically going to be talking about what's going on in current events and how you feel about it, why you think that's so, what kind of argument are you making for which side is right, which side is wrong, whatever. Yagelski gives some examples of times when an argument's primary goal is to assert why action has to take place. Okay? So some examples that he gives. One of them is justifying a boycott of products produced by sweatshop labor. Okay? Why are you trying to boycott this stuff? Well, it's because they're exploiting workers. The workers are not getting any of the profits. They're just getting pennies a day, while the stockholders and the CEO is getting all the money. Okay. To be discussing the legalization of same-sex marriage in a class setting. That is a powder keg. Okay. There are still people who feel very strongly about this in both directions. Okay. That is going to be one that you're going to be walking a tightrope on. But it is also a very important discussion to have, and it is one that can be backed up by logic. Okay? Debating whether to invite a controversial speaker to campus. Okay? Tell us the reasons logically why this speaker is going to cause trouble, or why this speaker should not have a forum here. Okay? There are some times when you can get that logical argument out there and it works. Okay, I've heard about a number of situations where colleges were scheduled to have a speaking engagement by Richard Spencer. If you don't know who he is, he's one of the figureheads of the alt-right. He's a very divisive speaker, a white supremacist. Okay. There have been a number of situations where he's been scheduled to speak, and student uproar was so much that they canceled the speaking engagement. There's a right way to do it. The wrong way to do it is an incident that occurred in 2015, I think it was. It was at the height of the Gamergate scandal, or the Gamergate situation online, when Utah State had scheduled Anita Sarkeesian, who is the founder of the Feminist Frequency YouTube channel, who was doing stuff about women's portrayals in video games. Okay, a person who people assumed was a Gamergater, and incidentally, the Gamergate guys are now pretty much credited as being the origins of the alt-right right now. So one of these Gamergaters phoned in a threat that he was going to conduct a mass shooting at the arena where Sarkeesian was scheduled to speak if she spoke. And as a result of that, the speaking engagement was canceled out of fears of public safety. Okay? That's the wrong way to do it. Okay? So, fourth one, public forum debates over whether to arm campus police. Okay? You might be surprised to know that there's some campuses that do not arm their police force. Okay? Even with things like tasers. Okay? I know most campuses do not allow firearms to be carried by police, but they still allow them to use tasers. Well, there's some that they still don't even allow that. Okay? And there may be some debate over whether they should be armed or not. Okay? So this would be another situation where their argument's goal is to assert why action has to take place. Okay? So to better give you a grasp of these purposes, I want you to do a brief exercise here. Now, we're going to have a little fun here because we're going to be dealing with social media. Okay? I want you to look at least 3 social media platforms. This includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, anything like that. Any social media that you're familiar with. Okay? And I will also expand this to include things like TikTok because we're starting to see some more opinionated stuff appear on TikTok. Okay? Scan the social media platforms in question and locate examples of an argument being asserted by a poster. Okay? Now, here's where the fun comes in. It does not have to be a well thought through argument. In fact, for the purpose of this exercise, the less logical, the better. Okay? Now, what I want you to do is to choose one of the arguments found and attempt to improve it. Okay? How do you do that? Here's what I want you to do. Try to make the argument sound more academic in nature and less like an off-the-cuff social media posting. Expand on it if you need to. Okay? Make it sound more academic. One main suggestion, though, is do not attempt to do this with any argument that you are vehemently against, and try to avoid anything patently offensive in nature. Now, I'm going to say this includes conspiracy theories. Okay, so I would really strongly recommend not going down that rabbit hole. Okay, plus I'm going to be asking you guys to post your what you found and your revisions of it to the questions of the professor discussion forum. I want to avoid anybody talking things like QAnon or anything like that. Okay, so find your argument, improve it. You have 30 minutes to locate it, choose one to work on, and rework it to improve it. Once you're done with that, I want you to post it to the questions to the professor discussion forum. I will set up a topic specifically for it. All right, take your 30 minutes now, and I'll pause this and we'll come back to it once you're ready. All right, welcome back. All right, so now you try to adapt a bad argument into a better argument. Let's take a look at what our argument's role is in college. So, in a collegiate setting, argument is entirely about learning. You argue points in order to better understand the general knowledge which inform those arguments. Really, it's not about the argument itself, it's about the information the argument presents. And you're trying to understand that information better by reading that argument and engaging with it. Now, there are certain academic disciplines that entirely rely on argument for their writing content. In fact, fields such as economics and social science are almost entirely argumentative in nature. Okay, economics, especially recently, you've seen a lot of debate over. We're trying to destroy capitalism. We've got people saying socialism is not the way to go. Socialism leads to totalitarianism, yada yada yada. A lot of these arguments maybe are less than informed, especially when it comes to things like socialized healthcare. Okay, there's a lot of dispute that goes on in regards to these topics. Okay, so argument then becomes a primary means of advancing argument. Far from being an attempt to pick a fight, an argument is a way to learn. Okay? Argument is not there for the sake of having a fight. The argument is there for engaging with the topic, engaging with the subject matter, learning more about that subject matter, understanding it better. So there are natural differences between disciplines when it comes to the content of the arguments. However, argument structure tends to remain consistent. So no matter what you're arguing, what topic you're arguing in, what topic you're arguing for, there's going to be at least a fairly consistent structure that you need to follow. So, and as a result, we have three essential characteristics that you find in most arguments. Okay? So first, you have a clear main point that is relevant to the academic discipline. So your thesis argument must be easily discernible to the reader and should be entirely related to the subject in which the argument is being posed. Okay? So your thesis statement has to be understandable. It has to be quick to pick out. Your reader has to be able to understand it completely. Okay, they have to understand this is the side you're taking, this is how you're approaching it, and now the rest of it is going to be you justifying that side. Which leads us to number 2, appropriate support for claims. You must have reasoning for your claims that follows logically from your argument. So you cannot just make an out of the blue statement and say, oh, this proves my point, without giving any evidence as to why that proves your point. Okay? You must also have evidence to back up your reasoning, which must be based on fact. Okay? There's a difference here. Facts, reasons, and evidence are two entirely different things. With reasons, it's why you support it. Okay? It's why you take that side of the argument. It's why you want to argue for that point. Evidence is the facts that back up your reasons. Okay? The facts that you have found that back up why you think the way you do about the argument. Okay? You cannot make a logical argument without evidence. Okay? No matter what anybody does in the headlines, you cannot make a good argument without evidence. It just makes you look foolish. Okay? That gets us to number 3. Shared assumptions or premises as a basis for the main argument. So you and your opponent in the argument must be able to agree on the base premises of the subject and be willing to acknowledge certain information as indisputable fact. You must also agree on what the definition of the limits of the argument are, the subject matter, and the credibility of factual sources. Okay? So you and your opponent are going to have to come to some kind of agreement as to this is what's fact, this is what's real, this is what exists, this is what's there, this is what isn't. Okay? That's a big issue that's been happening lately is that people cannot agree on this stuff. Okay, people can't agree on anything. In fact, I've seen a lot of people who will dispute base facts because somebody who they disagree with said them. Okay, that's not logic at all. All right, so with that in mind, we're going to try to cut things off for today and for this week rather, and we're going to move on to this stuff next time. However, before we end this lecture today, I want you guys to set up for creating your teams for the semester. Okay, these teams are for two purposes. Okay, main one is going to be for the workshop group. Okay. So you're going to be working. These are the ones that you're going to be working with when we get into workshop weeks, when you guys are going to be exchanging drafts and giving each other feedback. The other thing is for the team assignment, that anti-bibliography that you guys are going to be doing. You will need a team to work with. Okay, it is specifically designed so that you have to have a team together. So. What I want you to do is to get in touch with each other through the discussion boards or through email or chat. And then during our Blackboard Collaborate session this week, which I will post an announcement when that will take place well in advance, during that session we will get your team names and membership coordinated. When we do that, I'm going to post threads for each team to the team discussion board. Each thread will include a full list of who is in the team. I've had problems before where people have completely forgotten what team they were a part of. Okay, so we're going to try to avoid that, especially because we're doing it online, by having a specific list of who is in that team. Okay, so I want you guys to try to get together as much as you can. Over social media, over email, through the discussion boards, whatever you need to do to get together and form teams. Okay? Once you have your teams formed, you need to come up together with a team name. Okay? The team name can be as simple, as complex, as serious, or as silly as you want it to be. So it's mainly so that I can identify you. Okay. Again, team name is going to be on the discussion board in the subforum of team discussions. Thread with your team name will be open for you to use for the entire semester. Okay. There's no time limits on it. One thing I will say, this is what you want to use that forum for. First off, communication during class. Okay. Because this is an online class and also reliant on collaboration for part of your grade, it is imperative that you are able to keep in touch with your team. It's especially helpful if you're unsure about sharing personal contact information. If you don't want to deal with text messaging, or if you don't want to give people your email address, the team discussion boards is probably going to be your best bet in keeping in touch. The other thing is for the workshopping. When we are in the revision stage of each assigned essay, your team will be using the forums to share drafts and offer feedback to each other on your writing. Everyone has to participate on the workshops in order for your team to succeed. That means everyone has to share drafts and everyone has to offer feedback. Okay? Nobody can just sit back and lurk and just soak everything in. No, you have to give some kind of feedback. Okay? As a matter of fact, when we get to those workshop sessions, I'm actually going to create designated threads for each workshop under each team. Okay? Alright, so if you have any questions about this stuff, we'll be talking this over on Blackboard Collaborate. If you have any questions on anything, that'd be a good time to do it. If you're unsure about anything in the class, you can always email me. You can always post it to Questions of the Professor. Any concerns you may have, I'm going to try to work with you as best as I can, considering we're doing everything online this time around. So Uh, just do your best with it. Uh, get your mind tab set up, and I will see you guys next week.